When it comes to skydiving disciplines, what's your thing? In modern day skydiving, there are 7 basic disciplines that people participate in. There's an 8th one, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. These disciplines have evolved over time from the early days of just jumping out of a balloon or an airplane and surviving to eventually doing what was called style and accuracy, which was the earliest forms of competition. For some people, the skydive is over as soon as they deploy their parachute, but for others, the fun begins when the parachute opens. Here are some ways you can challenge yourself while under parachute. The most basic form is called accuracy, where you land on a target. Flocking is the next step, where you'll fly in proximity to another parachute, but not actually link up. Canopy formation, it was originally called canopy relative work, is where you actually fly your parachute to another parachute and link up. The current big way world record is 100. Swooping became very popular in the early 90s, where skydivers would turn real low to the ground and make their canopies dive and then fly real fast, just inches over the ground, and see how long they could go without actually touching. After a lot of injuries and deaths, people decided to start swooping over water to lessen the impact in case of a miscalculation. Then dedicated swoop ponds came along, and then, of course, we got competitions to see who was the best at swooping, and it's now called canopy piloting. Formation skydiving has its roots in what's called relative work. The earliest relative work was where 2 people would jump out of the same plane and pass a baton. And baton passing turned into 4 people jumping out of the same airplane and linking up in the sky and making a formation and maybe making a second one or third and even a fourth. And then 4-way relative work was born, because that's the number of people who could jump out of a Cessna at the same time. When larger aircraft became more available, like a Twin Beach and even the DC-3s, the formations got larger and larger. The current world record for a belly bigway is 400. While all that belly flying was going on in the 80s and 90s, there were some who were a little bit counterculture, like Roger Nelson, who were doing freak flying. So that was basically any orientation other than belly to earth. And of course, like everything else, that turned into its own skydiving discipline and eventually turned into a competition of vertical or mixed formation skydiving. There are head down and sit flying big way world records as well. The most famous skydiving videographer and photographer, Norman Kent, began filming his wife Deanna doing skydiving freestyle, which she basically did ballet moves in the sky, and eventually that turned into freestyle. Those same counterculture people who were doing freak flying started doing what was considered free flying, and Olav Zipser is credited as being the father of modern free flying. Speed flying is pretty simple. Go as fast as you can and record it and show all your friends. Skydivers have been trying to fly with wingsuits since the early days of skydiving, but around 2000 it started to catch on, and we've evolved into multi-disciplines for competition. So those are the 7 basic disciplines of skydiving, but there is one more. And of course, there's the zoo dives. There's nothing wrong with jumping out of an airplane with an inflatable boat or trying something that's a little bit beyond your current skill level. But just remember, keep it safe and make sure to have fun.